So this week we've got a white horse, some very cute pictures of dogs, a lovely campsite, an abandoned village, bell ringers, a war zone, a burial mound, and a cycle ride across Salisbury Plain. Well, we had a nice night last night at the Horse and Groom pub in Westbury, didn't we?
We did.
Nice meal there.
Another violet gin. I'm seriously getting worried about how much I like that violet gin.
We're going to have a look at the white horse, and then we're on to our campsite later on this afternoon.
Wiltshire is the county for white horses. There are, or were, at least 24 of these hill figures in Britain, with 13 of them being in Wiltshire. Most of the white horses are chalk hill carvings. Of the 13 white horses known to have existed in Wiltshire, 8 are still visible, and the others have either been lost completely or are in a sense still there. They're sort of hidden under the turf, but they're no longer visible. It's been established that most of the horses are about 300 years old. The Westbury White Horse is the oldest of the Wiltshire horses. It is also one of the best situated because it's so high on a very steep slope and it overlooks a panoramic view. It's on Westbury Hill on the edge of Bratton Downs, and it's immediately below the Iron Age hill fort called Bratton Camp, which is northeast of Westbury and near to the villages of Bratton and Eddington. Originally made of chalk, the horse was very high maintenance. So in the early 20th century he was concreted over and painted white, and this was to reduce maintenance costs. The earthwork defences of an Iron Age fort were built at Bratton Camp over 2,000 years ago. The earthworks protected a settlement containing roundhouses, granaries, stores and workshops. The double banks and ditches may have symbolised the dominance and power of the hill fort community and would have been formidable obstacles to enemies. 3,000 years before, a Neolithic long barrow had been built on this hill. The hill fort was preserved by later occupants, and excavations into the barrow in the 19th century revealed human skeletons and cremations. Bratton Down is a designated site of special scientific interest. The extensive area of chalk grassland supports herb and grass species that provide a habitat for a diverse assemblage of insects, including the rare Adonis blue butterfly and the scarce forester moth. So in the distance you can see Westbury, which is where we stayed last night at the pub. It's a really nice peaceful night actually. So this is the white horse from up close and personal. I think nowadays it's made out of concrete rather than chalk, if you look. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's not very chalky, it's very concretey. Oh no, did she? I missed that. Apparently Maya just slid down the horse. Are you liking it on the horse, girls? Oh, oh no! I'm not going down there. This is definitely a step too far for me. But Graham seems quite brave. He's going to investigate it. I don't know if you get a sense of how steep this is, but it is pretty steep.
Interesting how they get the proportions right when you see it from a distance. I mean, it doesn't look much like a horse from here, does it? It's huge. Must be quite hard to work on them at this jaunty angle. Dogs certainly seem to be enjoying it. Graham reassures me that this tiled bit that you can see, this black bit, is his eye. And there's Graham walking up the horse. Where's your drone when you need it? It's quite steep, isn't it?
Yeah, very steep.
Waiting for us after our nice walk on the hill. Quite busy here today. Doesn't feel too bad though because it's such a big area. Lots of children because it's the holidays.
Good morning. Well, you find us at Braid's Acre in Tills Head. We got here yesterday and set up. Didn't do much filming yesterday, we were quite busy just talking to people, one thing or another. So, I'll just show you outside and where Merlin is. Yeah, we woke up this morning to a really lovely day. Not bad for mid-April, is it? Yeah. So this is us. This is our pitch. There's Merlin sitting there proudly. Now I think we've got about 16 vans coming here, 16 CV vans, and not all here yet. There's 2 or 3 coming today, and there's some down this way. Yeah, people are up and about.
Braid's Acre is a family-run camping site in the heart of Salisbury Plain, a place called Till's Head.
So we're headed towards a village called Imber, which is in Salisbury. There's Rick and Heather chilling. We've not been here before. Apparently it's the Ministry of Defence who own it now. We'll tell you some more about it when we know some more about it, but it's a derelict village that's only open for so many days in the year, so we thought we'd go and have a little look.
Well, we are at Imber village, which is an old abandoned village that's now used to train the army on, and it's only open a few days every year. Easter, Christmas, New Year, times like that, when the army vacate it, and we're having a look around, and we'll try and tell you a little bit of history about it as well. So a lot of these buildings that we've seen so far are for urban warfare training. But there are a lot of old abandoned vehicles they use for target practice. And obviously you can't get right up to them. Not that we've seen any yet. Not a lot of windows in these places. They probably didn't put them in the first place. You wouldn't want your soldiers crawling around in glass, would you? Very prescriptive where you're allowed to go. Lots of cordoned off, no public access areas, understandably. As I think I said, a lot of these buildings are quite new, just used for training purposes. And that building down there used to be the Bell Inn. I don't think they do much beer these days. It's like a whole little village here that they use for urban warfare. And normally you can't get anywhere close to this, just a few times a year.
Given nowhere else to go, Imber's villagers were asked to leave their homes in 1943 with just 47 days' notice to make way for American troops to train for the liberation of Europe during World War II. Before the war, the Ministry of Defence had bought up farms and much of the village itself to make Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire the largest military training ground in the United Kingdom. Thus, the villagers were just tenants, so they were easily made to vacate their homes and their livelihoods. But as they understood it, it was only to be until the war had ended. Shortly before the war began, council houses, which can still be seen there, were built at Imber, a sure sign that neither the council nor the villagers, and maybe not even the Ministry of Defence, expected the village to be permanently taken over. However, Salisbury Plain remains even today too useful a training ground, so the villagers were never allowed back. Even for the visitors, the road through Imber village is rarely open, and all the buildings are now used for urban warfare training except for the church.
This is St Giles Church, and just as we arrived, the bells started ringing. The ringers were doing a quarter peal. I used to ring bells at our local church, and this made me want to have another go. The green bit on the rope is called the sally, and when they pull the green bit, that's the hand stroke, and the tail of the rope is called the backstroke. When ringing, it is important to keep your concentration. That's why you mustn't disturb the ringers. A quarter peal, which these guys were ringing, can take up to 45 minutes to ring and involves about 1,250 call changes, which is basically the order the bells are running.
Was it like a fancy Welsh, the boom?
They said it's important to sign this book. You don't get many visitors here.
Except on the rare occasions that the MOD decide to allow access to the village.
But in 2010 and 2020, the tenor bell was replaced by another old bell from another church. What you're looking at here is the order of ringing the bells. I think the order's fallen into disuse a little bit. And it looks like access to the bell tower is by ladder only. This is what the bells look like when they took them out. And that's the work of putting them back in place. And that's the bell tower itself, with the big wheels that spin the bell. It's a beautiful church.
Giles.
Yeah. And there are some relatively modern graves around. There's one over there for 2003. Seen a few modern ones. Let's have a walk over here.
Albert Nash was the village blacksmith, and it's said that he died of a broken heart just 4 weeks after he was moved out of the village.
It's quite an eerie feeling, really, being here. 1989, 1983. If you had relatives buried here, you wouldn't be able to come and see them very often, would you? I think legally, I read the MOD open this place up 47 times a year, or are able to open it up 47 times a year, but they hardly ever do. In practice, it's more likely to be, a dozen times, something like that.
It felt very special visiting St Giles Church in the middle of Salisbury Plain.
I didn't really know where I was going, but somebody had mentioned to me there was a MOD training facility nearby, so I headed in that general direction. Well, it turns out I found somewhere called Copehill Down village. It's called the NUTF, which is National Urban Training Facility. It's specifically designed to train for fighting in built-up areas, urban warfare basically. I was a bit worried about taking pictures, but this was the entrance. There was a barrier and a security guard further down the lane, so I rode up to him and had a chat. I asked him what goes on here then. With a half smile he told me he'd have to kill me if he told me. I continued round the facility. Round the other side, exactly the opposite side to where the gate was, I found this bit. All interesting stuff. Mind you, this one's gated off, so you can't even get in there. That's a shame. I'd like to have had a look in there. At this point, I didn't cross any no entry signs, although I probably shouldn't have been there. Been using this one for target practice, I think. Wall's been blown out. And bullet holes up there. And then I found a little area where I could just walk in. Should be here. That stile there was my entrance, in case you wondered how I got in there. I grabbed a few website pictures for you so you can get a better feel for what it's like. If you do a Google search for Copehill Down village, you'll find loads of information on this. At this point I was thinking I better not push my luck anymore, so I beat a hasty retreat. Time to get on my bike and back to Merlin and get some dinner cooking. Barbecue in action. Then a quick walk with the dogs before bed. Go, Luna, go front. It's very elaborate for a water tower, isn't it?
Yes, this is a water tower we've come across after our walk through the woods, and seems quite elaborate. I can see a ladder there up the side. It's got windows in it, which is a bit strange. I don't know why they've got windows in a water tower. I suspect we'll see it on Grand Designs one day, converted into a townhouse with a on the roof swimming pool or something. Bet the views from up there are great though.
After a walk round and a look at the water tower, we decided we want to have a look at the ancient monument that's owned by the National Trust called White Barrow. The simplest description of White Barrow would be to call it a burial mound, but in fact it's much more than that. It's never been fully excavated, but dating of materials found in and around it suggests that it's 3,500 to 4,000 BC, making it contemporary with other long barrows on Salisbury Plain. Although it's never been fully excavated, in 1806 part of it was opened and they found areas of black earth that they believed to be the remains of a wooden structured burial chamber. It was further looked at in 1997 by the English Heritage, and they found possible evidence of burial chambers and mortuary cairn inside the barrow. It was also recently taken over by a family of badgers, which obviously also had to be evicted. The next morning, a few of us decided that we wanted to go out for a bike ride.
Have a nice day. Have a nice bike ride.
Mitch and Steve both know the area very well, so we let them be our guides.
See you later.
There are a lot of terrific rides around here, and particularly so when the MOD decide to open up areas so that to allow public in. And that's where we're heading now. We're heading back to the Imber village that you saw earlier where the church was. That's where we're heading to now. I must admit I was completely lost going over the Salisbury Plain area, but luckily Steve and Mitch both knew. I think they knew exactly where we were all the time. They made it seem like they did anyway, although Steve's always pointing at stuff.
You're right.
And Craig kept trying to persuade me that we should swap bikes. I was having none of that. It was a really nice ride, but unfortunately all good things come to an end, and this was our last evening there. By this time everybody had turned up, and we even had a surprise visitor. Will and Sandra turned up straight off of their cruise. I'd like to thank Rachel and Mitch for organising this. They did a damn good job, and it was really good fun. So thanks guys. Maybe it'll be an annual event.
It was great meeting up with old friends and also meeting some new people. Pete and Janet, Liz and Rob, Ange and Des, hi to all of you. And of course we mustn't forget the stars of the show, Murphy and Brian. Catch us next time when we head east.